Hey everybody, it's Josh with BlockRoots. I just wanted to make a quick video here, hopefully not too long, to talk about the market, what's going on, because there's been a lot going on over the past week. As you know, it's been a few days since we've made a video. That's because, again, with our own families and our own lives, of course, that's been a priority. As for me, my kids are actually home from school because in my state, they actually shut down the public schools this week. We know that many of you are impacted in many different ways. We know that some of you may possibly even work in the restaurant business and food industry. We know that those industries have actually shut down in a lot of states and big cities as well, as far as just to have carry out. So that definitely impacts the livelihood of many people. So, we're thinking of you guys. And when it comes to the coronavirus and just the impact that it's having on our economy now is just really drastic. And that's with everything from traditional markets to Bitcoin. And we just know that YouTube is not that important, so we're thankful for you to be here. And as far as Bitcoin, we do want to talk about that because it's probably why you're here, and you want to hear our thoughts on what we think is going to happen. And so that's what we'll talk about. We're going to talk about that. We'll talk about quickly about the traditional markets, what's been going on with the Fed and the government here in the USA. As we know, even if you're not in the USA, that greatly impacts the Bitcoin market and traditional markets, which are correlated. And so we'll talk about that. It's kind of a meme now how everybody talks about the uncorrelation of Bitcoin when everything pulls back, Bitcoin pulls back too, right? So at least now in this time, always do your own research. Nothing is financial advice. And let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin. And so here's the monthly chart, right? Bitcoin, honestly, we're forming likely the largest monthly down candle that we've ever seen as far as price-wise. Percentage-wise, I could go back. I'm not for sure. I'm not going to sit there and calculate it, but it's close. If Bitcoin didn't bounce from 3.6K, then it by far would be the largest down candle in monthly history, and it's only March 16th. We're only halfway through the month right now, and so currently it's 42% down, and so from open to close, and honestly from here, it's probably safe to say that we continue to see more downside, and so we'll talk about that. So going into the weekly chart, let's just kind of go down the different time frames. You're going to notice that, of course, right, Bitcoin just dropped straight from 8K all the way down to 3.1K in a matter of hours the other day, and so the weekly didn't close very well either. If you actually look, right, the weekly close underneath some of these levels right here. That's not probably best case scenario. It's not a great look for Bitcoin right now. Now, as far as the day chart, we can go ahead and go into that just because, again, the weekly chart, really the best thing for the weekly right now is if you want to look and see as far as weekly support, right? It's way down here. You can see the high volume node down here around 4,000. It's very likely the way that the price is breaking down that we're going to hit back down there again. Primarily, too, why I say that is not just because of technical analysis, because TA, sometimes I would say that you don't want to throw it out the window because what's the point in me even talking right now? It does help you to figure out where the next price points are, potential balances, if something looks bullish or bearish. But at the same time, it's important to know the biggest impact now on the Bitcoin market is not technical analysis. It's not the weekly close. It's not this or that. It's the coronavirus. It's the traditional markets. It's the economy, the global economy as a whole, right? And so you need to let that sink in because so many people right now, and I'm included, I think Bitcoin in a normal market, Bitcoin would be a phenomenal value right now, right? But we're not in a normal market. We're in a black swan event, a recession, regardless of what anybody wants to call it or not. But it's not a normal market. And so you have to keep that in mind. A lot of people, just today or this week, there was somebody on a big YouTube channel talking about $100,000 Bitcoin. And that's all good and well, stock to flow and all that. But when we're in a recession that honestly just started in this past month with a coronavirus that continues to spread and spread and spread, that we haven't stopped yet, that we don't have a vaccine yet, that we don't have a cure for yet, it's hard to talk about $100,000 Bitcoin when we could see levels as low as under 3,000. So let's keep level-headed. Let's talk about that. I think Bitcoin can hit $100,000 one day. but it's not really the time and place to talk about that. I think if you do believe that, what you need to do is set entry levels, is to look at different areas that you feel like would be that you could buy Bitcoin at a specific price range. I mean, we can talk about that too. I mean, I certainly think anything under 3K is great. I think anything, even at these levels, long term are great if you plan to buy, put it in your ledger and walk away. I think that that's great. But if you're looking to actively trade, and if you're looking to get the most, Bitcoin for your dollar, then maybe you want to look at lower levels. And so as we talk about that, we can look at potential targets, but on the day chart, Bitcoin really is just ranging, right? Because Bitcoin fell really hard. Whenever you fall 40% in a day like that, you're going to range for a little bit, right? But with that said, there is some volatility here. You're going to notice the wicks of the candles back and forth, right? Let's go ahead and move to the 4-hour. Probably a lot better to look at this. A lot of volatility, okay? Not just the drop, but notice the wicks on the candle, right? Back and forth. And why is that? Why is there a lot of volatility right now? Because a lot of people will ask that, and that's because there's a lack of liquidity. Now, Bitcoin in itself, compared to traditional markets, isn't a liquid asset. Now, it is by far the most liquid asset in crypto markets. We've talked about that before, but it's in a liquid asset, okay? Especially when you consider how much of the volume is not real, across a lot of exchanges that, that most people have never even heard of before. And so if you were to take every single one of those, quote, Bitcoins off those exchanges at the same time, there'd be a lot of people who'd be unhappy who couldn't withdraw because that wouldn't be there. And not enough Bitcoin would be there if everybody had to prove their keys, right, with the proof of keys. So I think with that said, a drop like this, a lot of people then step out of the way. They move into cash. Even market makers and big players, they move out of the way, and you're going to see volatility because there's not a lot of levels in between. There's not a lot of people in the order book putting bids and ask, buying and selling. There's less people, so therefore the price just whips back and forth easier. It's easier to push the price back and forth. So you're going to see a lot of volatility. And really how we trade that specifically is that we lower our position size, right? So typically, if I'm somebody who trades with a couple Bitcoin, which typically I like to do, I'm not going to sit here in LARP and talk about, hey man, I've got $1 million position down. I don't have $1 million position down. I think not at these levels, especially. So if I have 2 or 3 Bitcoin typically in a trade, then maybe I'm going to level down to even a half a Bitcoin, quite a bit, right? Depending on who you are, depending on how much you trade, but just having smaller position sizes, reducing that risk overall. And you can still make a lot of money trading in a highly volatile market at lower Bitcoin prices. And so that's one thing that you want to do. But again, it is very volatile. And I think that you'll continue to see that because a lot of money was taking out of the market to hedge and cash. And that's why you see the big drop right here. And you may have heard about that. Even gold dropped down. A lot of people stepped out of the way. A lot of big players sold because they had the heads up on what was coming, or they knew about this. And so they sold, and they're out of Bitcoin. And as I've said before on a tweet earlier in a week, I said, look, a lot of money came out by big players. Don't expect that money to come in anytime soon, right? So expect a lot of volatility, expect a lot of movement back and forth, but don't expect the price of Bitcoin just to be going straight back up. Because if anything, the place to short was around 6K, right? If you look at this area right here. And what happened, right? We looked at this level as a resistance level. Price came up below it, went sideways again, and of course, with Donald Trump's speech on Friday, President Trump, he really just pumped traditional markets, and you're going to notice that one of the best days ever in the market in traditional markets. Bitcoin is a correlated asset, believe it or not, right? People don't want to believe that, but if the market starts to go up, traditional markets, Bitcoin's going to go up, okay? And that's what happened. And so that's been a very good reaction, but at the same time, right, there are some other things to go on this weekend. And so that specifically was when the U.S. Federal Reserve discussed cutting rates to zero and to launch a $700 billion quantitative easing program, okay, to try to take some pressure off the markets, possibly pump the market, And typically a reaction to that in the past has always been that the market pumps. Well, this time, not so much. Now, this is the S&P, this is the SPX, this is not the futures that opened on Friday, but the reaction to that, not opened on Friday, that closed on Friday, but opened on Sunday, the reaction to that on Sunday was that futures immediately sold off, right? They didn't buy into that. What happened was, we had the pump, people got out, right? They sold, they took advantage of it. And hopefully people didn't buy in Friday thinking that the market was going to continue to pump. We just talked about you can't fall for it because the coronavirus has just started. And if you listen to people who are experienced in markets, they'll all tell you that it's the coronavirus, right? That is the big major impact on this market, creating fear, creating panic with the economy. And not until we see more people recover from that are we going to see the market turn around in reverse. And so until then, sideways, likely and more down as well. And so, but we did see that sell off, okay? And then as far as over the past day, we saw the market continue to reduce. I believe that it's down another 11% today, right? I think the Dow Jones is at least so. So in the reaction to that too, we saw Bitcoin do the same thing, come down, bounce. And with that said, that's where we're currently at, right? If we want to go ahead and look at the hourly, just going to notice that Bitcoin did fall down as low as 4,300, but then it bounced back up. But overall, I don't really like where it's at. Just watch that. I think a close underneath $4,900 is going to lead to more downside to around 4,200 or below. Interest down here with the volume profile, you're going to notice that it is sub 4,000. So do I think that we eventually see 4,000, sub 4,000? My answer to that at the moment is yes. I do believe that we see that. And I do believe that due to the circumstances of the coronavirus, if we continue to see more and more businesses shut down, the economy continue to go down, if we see the traditional markets continue to go down, the SPX, as far as that goes, if this continues to move down, then yeah, we're going to continue to move down in the market as well. One thing that I did say that got a lot of attention was just talking about Clark's post just about how, look, just with Trump's attempt to pump the markets on Sunday, for the markets to sell off that fast, it's like your favorite fighter getting KO'd in the first 4 seconds of the fight, right? And so for me to see that, for many people to see that, I actually move more to cash. And so for me, I feel like the risk of being in cash is far less than being in Bitcoin. Now, as far as Bitcoin, again, if you believe in long-term in Bitcoin, which I do, I still hold Bitcoin, but I did move to more cash because my strategy in the end is to always hold some Bitcoin, but in the end also too, it's to be able to take advantage of that Bitcoin that is highly volatile and that I feel like is worth, that will be worth a lot one day as far as value, to buy it low and sell it high, just like anybody else. And so that involves trying to get the best prices possible at this point in time after the reaction of the traditional markets. So for the markets to react as they did on Sunday after the U.S. Federal Reserve cut the rates and the quantitative easing, for the markets to react like that, that there's likely more downside. And so that's just kind of our sense at the moment. And I think that you have to really take it day by day. The markets move so fast. It's one of those things where I could walk away from the computer for a few days, go on a small little sabbatical away from technology just because I'm stuck inside anyways, right? Anyway, for the COVID-19. But if I had just walked away from the computer and opened up 3 days later, the market could be up or down drastically. So you want to keep an eye on it day by day. Luckily for traditional markets, they close on the weekends, even though Bitcoin is up and down consistently. I think that there's a lot of money to be gained right now for some certain players and traders, big traders. And so I think they're going to take advantage of that right now. So as far as that goes, can it drop lower than 3,000? I think certainly so. I do believe that now is the time to educate yourself on the markets. Now is the time to learn. Now is the time to prepare yourself. Another tweet that I talked about also is that Stacking Bits, a good friend, great trader, talked about just the liquidity issues possibly with Tether. If everybody is in Tether right now, or even stablecoins, putting all their money in that. Of course, we know that the Tether balances have been at an all-time high right now on exchanges. And so if everybody moves into Tether and then tries to get all that out at once, what's going to happen? And so again, if you are looking to get in any type of quote hedge, such as cash or stablecoin, I certainly recommend USD. I mean, USD, there's specific platforms that you can get USD on, whether it's Coinbase, Gemini, Bittrex now even has USD, Kraken has USD, I think Bitstamp as well. So a lot of different exchanges that you can do that with. And so just, make sure that you're thinking about that. It's a lot easier to get into USD. And to get back and forth than USD depending. But the good news is there's a lot more markets, even on exchanges that most people don't use, like Bittrex, right? That you can actually store USD, and then the spread might not be as good when you buy in, but when the market drops, I mean, what does it matter anyways if you're paying a few dollars more on Bittrex compared to Coinbase, right? So just be aware of that. I would definitely look into getting into cash if you're looking to hedge. And if you're not looking to get into USD, if you want to hold your Bitcoin, if you're afraid that you're going to sell your Bitcoin at 5,000, it's going to drop to 3,000 and you're going to miss it and it just went back up to 6,000 and you have to pay more for it, then don't do it. You don't need to get into cash necessarily. And in the time anyway, the time anyways to get into cash was above 8,000 before this massive drop, right? And so I was really fortunate. Was talking to some people. I did sell one around 8,000, thinking that I would buy the dip at 7,100, right? And then of course it just dropped right through that. But I'm glad that I got in cash at that time, and also had one around 95, 9,600 as well. But anyway, just a little bit. But yeah, the time to get in was then. And if you're not in yet, don't feel the pressure to need to do so. I don't want you to feel like, oh my gosh, is Bitcoin going to $1,000? And I mean, it could, but we don't know that, right? All we know is that there's buyers right now at the high 3,000s, and until it breaks that area, we're just going to have to wait and see. Like I said, take it day by day, watch the traditional markets. If traditional markets continue to do really, really poorly, I mean, I don't expect Bitcoin to do very well or to bounce back very quick. And this is probably going to be a while. And I think a lot of people are asking, how long is this going to take? And I think that it's going to take a while. I think the stock to flow analysis of, a lot of people are talking about the 100K by 2021. I just don't see that happening. Not next year. It's just this virus it hasn't just started, but it's still really bad. Because if you go on this Johns Hopkins University of Medicine dashboard for the coronavirus spread for the total confirmed cases, you're going to notice that I looked at this a long time ago, and Johns Hopkins got this up pretty quick, in that there was not near as many red dots. There were barely any red dots in the United States. And look at it now. The United States is covered in red. And so we just know that every area, right, is just covered. You've got New York with over almost close to 1,000 cases, California 500 cases. You even got the islands down here, right? With even these smallest islands have multiple people with cases of coronavirus. And a lot of these places down here don't have great health care, meaning that the spread is likely going to be easier, even though there's not as many people. But for the government to shut down public schools for months, right? For the president to even say that he thinks this is going to go on until at least August. And a lot of schools open up in August, meaning that they may be pushed back until September or October. But in order for them to do that, in order for them to shut down businesses and have a major impact on the economy, as well as none of the federal cuts working as well, this is going to be a while until prices reverse and move back up. And for me, again, if for some reason, as I talked about before, price moves back up to this major area up here, this POC, I'm likely going to try to put in an ask for a short there. I don't think it's going to even make it back up there at this point in time. We could have a bounce. We could have a good week. We could have good weeks in between, right? We could have another bounce up towards 6K and then back down. I mean, just take it day by day. At least with this video, what I wanted to do is just talk to you about current price, just the reality of things right now, what we're doing as far as cash, not using stable coins, and just to be smart. Just to be smart, take it day by day, and keep yourself healthy. And so Let's also too give away. Let's end this on a good note, okay? Let's end it on a good note with giving away one Bitcoin. I wish one Bitcoin. Let's give away $100 of Bitcoin to somebody. Well, on the rate this is going, you never know. We could maybe one day give a Bitcoin away. And the winner is Richard Schwartz DFW. Awesome content. Thank you. So, Richard, I am going to reply to your comment on the last video and just say, hey, leave your wallet, Bitcoin wallet. I'll send you $100 of Bitcoin. And then from there, what we'll do is if you're interested in that, just join the community below by subscribing. Click subscribe button. And we're happy to give away another $100 of Bitcoin here soon. And so we'll have some more market updates. The next one, I believe that it's going to be Ryan. So he's going to give some market updates, again, on his thoughts this week. So he'll do that. Be on the lookout for that as well. Again, the most important thing is for you guys to stay safe, stay healthy. Spend time with your loved ones. Find the simple things in life and enjoy it, because that's what's important. And again, if you're trading out there, be safe and trade effectively. And we'll talk to you guys soon.